Welcome to chapter 10, book of Exodus. The plagues continue with Moses and Aaron going before Pharaoh and relating to him what Kyrios says to let the people go out and to sacrifice to him in the wilderness. But Pharaoh off and on says yes he will and no he won't, and basically his heart is not to let them go. So God keeps sending, Kyrios keeps sending Moses and Aaron, and here it goes into the next visit, and it says, and the Lord said, Kyrios said, pros moisin, saying, Legon, enter to Pharaoh, for I oppressed his heart and the heart of his therapeutics, to derivative, his attendants, that these signs next should come upon them. So there's going to be more. Their hearts are hardened, so the Lord is going to continue with these plagues. And so he said, enter to them, that you may describe them into the ears of your children and to the children of your children, as much as I mocked the Egyptians in my signs, which I did among them. And you will know that I am Kyrios. Excuse me. The things that happen, that God's saying that describe them to your children, ears of your children, well, we still read about these plagues in Egypt. They're famous thousands of years later. And as much as God did to the Egyptians, and he says he mocked them, made fun of them by doing all these things. Excuse me. That you would know, there's a reason for all this, that I am the Lord, that you will know all these things that he did, the children and the children's children. I changed it to I am. I had it as I, but it says down here in that dagger, if you go down into, if you go and see the Aldine edition, it has Emi afterwards, I am. So I just added the I am here and changed it ego Emi, and there's no Emi in other manuscripts. So, but you know that it is I am Kyrios. And Moses and Aaron entered before Pharaoh and said to him, thus says the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, until when will you not shame me? Send out my people that they may serve to me. In the imperative, how long are you going to shame me by not doing what I said? But if you should not want to send out my people, behold, I will bring this in the hour tomorrow, many locusts or much locusts. Pauline, poly comes from that, many. Akrida, locusts, upon all your boundaries. Well, they had locusts in Egypt. They're famous, the locusts in that area. And you can go to Wikipedia, and it has a great article on locusts. And just to sum up a lot that I found in there that I thought was interesting, was that the Akrida, the family and classification of the animals, plants and animals, the family of the locust is called the Acrididae, comes from this word, Akrida. And they are hopping insects, and they basically, a lot of times, or most of the times, are what they call the solitary phase. Then they would be grasshoppers, and they're innocuous. They can hop around, and their numbers are low, and they don't pose a major economic threat to agriculture in that state, in the solitary state. But when certain weather conditions are combined and the ground is moistened and different things, you can read about that in Wikipedia, apparently serotonin in their brain works on the locust and makes them gregarious and nomadic, and they swarm. So they fly and they gather by in these swarms. That's what they're called. And it says there that the extinction in the United States, the extinction of the Rocky Mountain locust has been a source of puzzlement. It had swarmed throughout the west of the United States and part of Canada in the 19th century, 1800s. Albert's swarm of 1875 was estimated to cover, get this, 198,000 square miles, greater than the area of California, and to weigh 27.5 million tons with some 12.5 trillion insects. So they swarm, and then they come down and they devour everything, all the green, whatever's in their path, they eat, and they lay devastated. They're called a plague, and they devastate the land that there's nothing that people can have after the locusts are done eating everything. They don't attack man. They can't bite, and so they're basically an insect that's interested in eating whatever's around it. And as they get into these swarms, and this is what they want to do. Now, locusts are what's called a clean animal. As far as Levitically clean, you can eat them, and many people do. I was reading that said they can be cooked in many ways, but they're often fried, smoked, or dried. And then it mentions in the Bible that John the Baptist ate acridus, locusts, and wild honey. Now, when I was a kid in Lutheran grade school, they tried to say, well, that they didn't want kids thinking you could eat locusts for some reason. I guess it was like not part of our culture. So they tried to excuse it as it was called locust bread, and so these different things. But they eat locusts. People eat them. They have them throughout the Middle East, and they apparently, when they're fried, and they put them on a stick, and they crunch, be like a potato chip, and salt on them, and they say they're excellent. So, well, give them a try, and let me know how you like them. But there are other insects that were like locusts, but the locust, the acrida, is the one it's talking about here. There's also what in the United States were called cicadas, but they're actually a different order, so they would be in a different family, and they basically suck sap out of trees, and they can live up to 17 years, where the locust only lives around 4 months. Now, it says here, and the appearance of the earth will be covered, and you will not be able to look down at the ground, and all the extra will be eaten up, the thing being left behind, which the hail left behind to you, and will be eaten up every tree germinating of yours upon the land. And I will fill your houses and the houses of your attendants, and all the houses in all the land of the Egyptians, which at no time have your fathers seen, pateras, paternal derivative, nor their forefathers, from which day they were upon the land until this day. And turning aside, he went forth from Pharaoh. Now, if that sounds like it's really bad, it's nothing compared with the locust that's going to be in the future, and we'll go read and what that's all about in Revelations 9:1. And the fifth angel trumped, and I saw a star falling from out of the heaven unto the earth, and was given to him the key of the well of the Avisu, the abyss. And he opened the well of the abyss, and ascended smoke from out of the well as the smoke of a furnace burning. So something opens up in the earth, and the sun and the air were darkened from the smoke of the well. And from out of the smoke came forth acridas, locusts, upon the earth. And authority was given to them as the scorpions of the earth have authority. So they're not like the locusts that don't bother people, but these are going to be like scorpions when they strike. And it was said to them that they should not injure the grass of the earth, which is the opposite of what they would do, nor any green thing, nor any tree, except the men only who have not the seal of God upon their foreheads, the ones that are giving themselves over to the beast. So these horrible creatures are going to come out now. Possibly a DNA gone bad, where man messes around with DNA and decides to cross the DNA of a locust with a scorpion. Both, I guess, are insects, and maybe somebody read about this and let's give it a try, see what will happen, and they're successful. But there's other possibilities, I suppose, and because it continues and it says, and was given to them that they should not kill them. So these people are going to be struck but not killed. So with that, it doesn't sound like it's any type of a military expedition, because if it was a military thing, then they would probably be killing the others. But that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as a torment of a scorpion whenever it should strike a man. Now, I have not been struck by a scorpion, but as I understand, it's very, very painful. And imagine if there was a trillion of these locusts covering the size of California, imagine if they were just all over and striking a person. I mean, but it says, and in those days, men shall seek death. Well, sure, who wants to be struck and hurt and all this pain and everything? And in no way shall they find it. They shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. Ooh, wow, that's horrible. And the representations of the locusts, now it says representations, or the likeness of the locusts, because 36, 67, and 64 are related, and the likenesses were likened to epis, horses being prepared for war. Now, some people would say, well, these are some type of like a helicopter. Well, it's a possibility, I suppose, but it says they come out of the ground. And upon their heads as golden crowns, and their faces as faces of men. So they have faces. So it doesn't sound like I suppose they could paint some type of a face on some kind of armor of the future. And they had hair as hair of women, and their teeth were as lions. And they had chest plates as chest plates of iron. And the sound of their wings was as the sound of many chariots of horses running to war. And they have tails like unto scorpions, and stings, kentra, in their tails. And in their tails, they have authority to injure men 5 months. They have a king over them, the angel of the Avisu, the abyss, and he comes out. His name in Hebrew is Avadon, but in the Elleniki, the Greek, he has the name Apollyon. The one woe went forth, behold, comes still 2 woes after these. So that is the locust that we, hopefully the Christians will be taken, the world will be faced with in the future. And the attendants of Pharaoh say to him, well, for how long will this be to us for an impediment? Send out the men so that they may serve to Kyrio, their God. Or do you prefer to see that they destroy Egypt? So now the people are turning against Pharaoh. But it says, and both Moses and Aaron returned to Pharaoh. And he said to them, go and serve to the Lord your God. So now he's changed again, go serve. But then he makes a condition. But which and who are the ones going? And Moses says, well, with the young and the older we will go, with our sons, daughters, and sheep, our oxen, for it is the holiday of the Lord our God. And he, Pharaoh, said to them, well, let it be so, the Lord be with you in so far as I send you, but should also your belongings? See, for wickedness lies near to you. So he didn't really change. He's accusing them of wickedness because they want to take the belongings, everything that they own, they're going to leave for good. Not so. Let the men go forth and serve to God, for this they seek after. And they cast them, that is, Moses and Aaron, from the face of Pharaoh. So, again, he said the right thing, but then his actions were the opposite. So now again, God is going to deal with the second to the last plague. And the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand upon the land of Egypt, and let the locust descend upon the land, and it will eat up all the pasturage of the land and all the fruit of the trees, which the hail left behind. And Moses stretched out the rod into the heaven, and the Lord brought the south wind upon the land that entire day and the entire night. And in the morning came the south wind, lifting up the akritha, the locust. I'm sorry that the next plague is a little later here. I forgot to have this in between. And he led it upon all the land of Egypt, and it rested upon all the boundaries of Egypt, many, exceedingly. So something like we talked about there in Wikipedia. Prior of them there were not such locusts, and after this there will not be so. Probably he's talking about in Egypt. And they covered the appearance of the land, and corrupted the land, and ate up all the pasturage of the land, and all the fruit of the trees, which were left behind from the hail. There was not a green thing. Chloron, we have chlorophyll, chloro from green. There was not left a green thing, not one thing among the xelis, the woods, the trees. Even in all the votani, the pasturage, and botany comes from that, of the plain in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh hastened to call Moses and Aaron, saying, I have sinned before the Lord your God and against you. Favorably receive then my sin and still my repentance, and still now and pray to the Lord your God, and remove from me this plague. And Moses went forth from Pharaoh and made a vow to God. And this is the 8th time. And the Lord turned a vehement wind from the Thalasea, the sea, and it took up the akritha, the locust, and cast it into the Red Sea. And there was not left behind one locust in all the land of Egypt. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he did not send out the sons of Israel. So, again, same old thing. Pharaoh once says he's going to let them go, but then he changes his mind after the remedy of the plague. So now the second to last plague. And the Lord said to Moses, "Well, stretch out the hand into the heaven, and let darkness become upon the land of Egypt, a tangible darkness, something you could feel. It's so dark, can't imagine." And Moses stretched out, be like a blind person, the hand into the heaven. And there was darkness, dimness, and a storm upon all the land of Egypt for 3 days. Sounds like later what they saw on Mount Sinai. So 3 days, and not did anyone know his brother, and not did anyone rise up from out of his bed for 3 days. So apparently even a light with those days didn't help. It was so dark that they still couldn't see much. But to all the sons of Israel there was light in all the places in which they occupied. Phos, phosphorus comes from that, phos. Tri, all these derivatives. And Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron, saying, "Proceed, serve to the Lord your God. Only the sheep and the oxen leave behind." So this darkness, it has a parallel in the book of Revelation, in the 5th bowl. It says, "And the 5th angel poured out his bowl upon the throne of the wild beast, and his kingdom became enveloped in darkness. And they gnawed their tongues from the misery," it's probably cold, "and they blasphemed the God of heaven from out of their miseries and from their sores, and they repented not from their works." So another thing that's going to be similar in the future. So anyway, proceed, serve to the Lord your God. Only the sheep and the oxen leave behind, but let your belongings run with you. So now he's going to let them have their belongings, the things that they need to live on, exist on, but not the animals. And Moses said, "But also you shall give us means for whole burnt offerings, and sacrifice offerings which we will make to the Lord our God. And our cattle shall go with us, and we shall not leave behind a hoof, for of them we shall take to serve to the Lord our God. But we know not how we shall serve to the Lord our God until our arriving there. So we're going to take them. But the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he did not want to send them. And Pharaoh says, "Go forth from me." In the imperative, get out of here, go. Take heed to yourself, yet to add to see my face. For whatever day you should see me, you shall die. And Moses says, "As you have said, no longer shall I appear to you in person." The last plague, the worst plague, chapter 11. We'll get to that in our next video seminar, and hope you'll continue in these interesting chapters of the plagues. Till then, God bless.